Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a fun 2-page scrapbook layout for you as part of a monthly YouTube sketch hop where I get together with 8 other creative ladies and we each do our take on the same sketch. This month's sketch was chosen by Melissa Miner from over at Cards by Melissa, and it's from the Facebook group called For the Love of Pretty Paper. It's such a cute sketch and it's going to be so much fun. Melissa shared that we could use the prompt currently or week in the life, and that we could use prompts like loving, eating, watching, praying, so on and so forth. So I thought this would work great in my 7-part Hobby Haven series, where we're taking 7 different hobbies or interests, and we're creating 2 pages for each of the 7 hobbies or interests. So here's my little cheat sheet or my little working journal that we've been working off of, and we've created 4 layouts with this series so far. And I thought today could not only be the sketch hop page, but it could be the 5th page in the Hobby Haven series. I always love it when I can combine and get 2 things done for one amount of effort. So in quick review, we used the Hobby Haven collection for a reading theme where we did a play on cookbooks. We used the spa paper for a beauty salon theme. And then we did scrapbooking or photography. And then we also did some hand stitching on a page to focus on sewing, stitching, cross stitching, that type of thing. So here's what we have left in the collection, and I'm kind of getting a little anxiety. I'm looking at it and I'm like, did I promise 7 2-page layouts? This is what we have left, and we have 3 2-page layouts to go. So we have 6 pages to go, and today I wanted to focus a little bit on painting. Now don't worry if you don't have any painting photos. I think anything in the art area would work great, but you can look at what we have left here, and I love the concept of this sketch because that means I probably am going to be able to get away with a lot less pattern paper. Now this pattern paper here looks at first glance like sewing and quilting, but there's actually a couple painting icons or art icons in there. So the first thing I want to do is start with the background, and I think I'm going to give myself some extra circles. They are under 3 inches. They are about 2 3/4 inches in there, and I would like to be able to add extra photos, and so I think I'm going to head to the Cricut. So let's head to the Cricut. We're going to grab a square. And the very first thing I'm going to do is make that square 11.5 by 11.5 because that's the max cutting size that I can do on my Cricut Explore Air 4. Then I want to find a square that has some lines that I can turn into pen or into draw. I think that we could jazz up this background by adding some square frames to the background, and we could add a 0.4 Cricut pen into the Cricut and draw those on the background. So what I'm going to do is pull that on to the square. I'm going to turn it into a draw image. I'm going to select both of those images. I'm going to make that 11.5 by 11.5 just like the other one, and then align those over the top. So if you select both images and then choose align, it will align those on top. Select those again and attach them on top of each other. So once they are attached on top of each other, then that means it will draw that square on top. So now you have an image that will cut the 11.5 by 11.5, and it will draw the lines on there. Now I'm going to go back to my images and find a set of circles. So I found this 9-circle overlay that I'm going to stretch to the middle of that and attach that to the original squares that I created. So now we have two different cut images that we've attached to each other, and we have a draw image in there as well. So it's going to make it a multiple image, but by selecting those all together and hitting the attach button, all of that's going to happen at once. So when you click make it, it's going to draw the lines on the outside, it's going to cut the circles on the inside, and it's going to cut the whole square into an 11.5 by 11.5. And I love to add all kinds of draw lines and cut lines to images to create fun backgrounds. Now I've printed some 3x3 photos of my grandson Waylon James, and I think there's one of him and we are at Pottery to Paint. He loves to go to Pottery to Paint, and we've done this several times. We have to drive to the nearest city for this, but he decided he wanted to paint a dragon, and then he wanted to make a kitty cat for his mom and his dad. So he made a ceramic dragon and a ceramic kitty cat. And I love the concept of being able to get at least 8 to 10 photos on here. Now there's actually 18 photo holes, so you could do a lot more photos and a lot less decorating, but I loved the concept of layering some of those circles and having some layers on the top, putting some of the elements underneath. But I really loved that there was a white border around each of those photos. So I'm going to lay white in the center. Now, in retrospect, I could have had a 12 by 12 white background and then just added a Secret frame over the top instead of two different pieces there. But what I did for the Secret frame is I just gutted by cutting from 1 inch to 11 inches all the way around to have that base. Now I'm going to pull out anything that has to do with painting or art. There's a couple easels, there's a couple painting palettes, and I think there is some paintbrushes and a jar. There is an apron, and I could definitely use the apron in this layout because both Waylon James and I are wearing aprons, but I'd like to reserve the apron because I think I'm going to be doing a cooking layout. So I've pulled out some dies, and I have Stylish Shapes, which is still available. I have Spotlight on Nature, which I use and use and use and use and use. And then I have some basic circles that I have in my stash from Close to My Heart. And I'm just kind of checking out the sizes and trying to figure out which ones are going to work with this layout. I don't actually end up using the Stylish Shapes on this one, but it would actually fit inside. So you could cut your photos out of it. You could cut some other shapes out of it. I don't end up using it. I end up using the Spotlight on Nature 2 3/4 inch circles that both have different edges. One has like crimped edge and one has dashed lines. And then for the basic circle, I use my Close to My Heart 2.5 inch. So I'm using 2 3/4, which is the size of the circle opening. And then I'm going to use 2.5 for the photos. So that will leave a white frame around each of the photo circles. Now I end up using 8 of the photos, but as I said before, you could use a lot more photos if you wanted to. There's actually 16 photo holes, but I wanted to use some pieces of pattern paper, and I wanted to use some cardstock circles. Now, Melissa said that our theme was currently, and boy, oh boy, do we have the perfect stamp set for that. One of the brand new stamp sets that just launched is called Currently Loving, and there's so many combinations: currently playing, currently reading, currently loving, currently learning, currently loving life, currently, oh my goodness. So on this sketch, it shows the title between the first 2 rows of circles, but currently is a little bit too big. And so I'm thinking I could do currently across the top and loving in between where the sketch shows. So I have a little bit of a smudge on this one. And so I thought if I mess up, I am kind of contemplating recutting this one anyway because I smudged the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp currently in Secret C across the top. And I'm not completely unhappy with it. I feel like it goes a little bit uphill, but I could live with it. And then I can put loving in the center. Another idea is I could stamp separately. I could stamp currently on a separate piece of paper and cut it out. But I do think I like the lines in the back and I think it's going to be okay, but I might move it down a little on my final copy and then just go ahead and cut another one so that there isn't a smudge at the bottom. But I want to make sure, since I'm practicing, loving is going to fit right in there. And then I can take my Stampin' Up! Stampin' Right marker and create dots, because I love the concept of currently loving ... And then I can finish that sentiment with my journaling. So I really do like that. So I've just straightened it out just a little bit, moved it down just a little bit, and put it on my final copy. Now I've chosen my order here. I did a little bit of working this out off camera. I've made 3x3, 6 3x3 pattern paper pieces, and then I've cut out 4 of the Spotlight on Nature circles with the edges, and then of course the rest are going to be photos. And it looks like it's random, but it is random, but yet with an order. So I made sure with this one pattern paper that I had pattern paper that actually had the painting icons in it. So I might rotate that, or have to rotate that a little bit so that those are sort of front and center instead of the sewing or the knitting or the crocheting icons. So now I have pattern paper that are balancing each side. I have cardstocks that are balancing on each side so that I can feel comfortable that I have colors that are going opposites of each other, or at least on opposite sides. Now I'm going to bring in a stamp set that goes with some dies. I don't need the dies today, but it's a super cool set. It was brand new here just this week. And it's called Gears and Textures. And I don't need the actual gears for this one, but there's lots of good splotches and speckles and stripes and chevrons in this. And of course, since this is painting, I can definitely use those to add some jazz to the background. So the first thing I'm going to do is I don't want to put my overlay down with adhesive, but I want to put it where it's going to go. And I'm going to start with my 2 3/4 inch circles to anchor that and keep that in place because they're very snug. Then I will go back with that piece in place and I'll add my photos so that they're centered in the circle. So there's a 1/4 inch border all the way around those circles. I love that the white border is around those circles, but that the cardstock Spotlight on Nature pieces are snug, and then we'll slide the pattern paper underneath and we'll adhere it to the overlay. But I want the overlay to be loose so that we can do stamping on that, and we will probably need to have some of the stamping that comes and gets cut off in the circle, so we don't want to have anything under it that is going to get stamped by accident. We want to be able to stamp that separate. So I've flipped that over and I'm just going to add those pattern paper pieces with a little bit of liquid glue on the back side, which makes it super, super cute. So I'm doing this over the top of my photos. So my warning is, if you're messy, you don't want to do that, but I'm being super careful to make sure that I'm just using a teeny bit of glue on the outside and then laying the 3x3 squares. So what I love about a sketch like this is all the pattern paper in this entire 2-page layout is 3 3x3 squares. So that's really going to help me stretch this pack a lot, since I have 3 2-page layouts left to do with the Hobby Haven series. So I love layouts like this that make a really fun layout, and the notion that there's pattern paper in it, but there really isn't that much. And so now I'm looking at my pattern paper pieces, And I've created balance in another way by making sure that there's one pattern paper piece in each row. And then I've done my journaling on a little piece of vellum. I took a circle shape into my Word document and I made the circle 2 3/4 inches. And then I added a text box to that circle so that I knew that the journaling would fit inside a 2 3/4 inch circle. But I won't know until I add a few icons where the best place to put that journaling is going to be. So I'm going to pull out the icons that we have from Hobby Haven. And then I also created this cute little easel on the Cricut. Now I know we have easels with Hobby Haven, but I really wanted to say little artist and make it into a little bit of a larger title. I'm not going to go too overboard with this layout. I want a few nicely done, strategically placed splatters and blotches, along with a few nicely placed icons. Now, I've created painting layouts before that are just crazy, over the top, splattered all over the place, and I didn't want to do that with this one. I mean, there's a time and a place for it, but this one I wanted to strategically follow the sketch and place a few little blotches in just the right spot. So I have this blotch that's on the gears and textures that I think would go good on that little focal title element. I created one splotch on the Cricut in Pool Party. I created the title with pecan pie and crumb cake and secret C. So I've done one of the blotches with the gears and textures with Cajun Craze, and then I can put the Cricut blotch over the top of that and the secret C title over the top of that. So what I did is I sliced out the word little in the crumb cake, and then I cut out the word artist in secret C. Now I'm inking those edges with a little bit of pecan pie, and I'm just going to assemble those together and pop that up on the easel so it has a little bit of height. And there's a little paintbrush that I made on the Cricut that goes with that out of pecan pie, secret C, and then a little metal piece with silver foil, a teeny tiny little piece of silver foil. So I'm going to add artist to that because I think that fits perfectly with Waylon James. He's such an enthusiastic little artist and he gets so excited to create things, and I love being able to create with him. I've done the pottery to paint, of course, with every single grandchild out of all 8 of them. It's just that Waylon James is the littlest one now. So all of them had many opportunities to do painting and other crafting classes and things with me. He's just the littlest one out of all 8 now. So he gets to do, it seems like it's all about him, but it's because he's the littlest and he has the most time with me now. All the others had a ton of time with me when they were littler, and now they have lives and school and sports and other things, so he gets his turn. So I'm going to add that easel there, and I think the journaling will fit really nice underneath that. So I started my journaling with ... And so I put currently loving ... this day, and then I went into my journaling so that the title from the left page crosses over into the journaling on the right. Now I'm going to place some of these icons that come from Hobby Haven. Very simple. I'm not going to overdo it or overthink it or get these huge enormous clusters. Just a few of those art icons, and I'm going to figure out where I want those. And I think I'm going to create a visual triangle. So I'm going to put some in the upper right of the right page, the lower left of the, of the left page, the lower left of the right page, and then up in the middle there by the easel. So I've loaded all of those background blotches and splotches on some blocks. And I can see what they've done here on the sketch. If they've strategically and nicely done just a few blotches on the lower left, a few on the upper right, a few around the title, and then I think I can just create a pattern with that so that it doesn't overwhelm the pages with too much, where it's just enough, but it isn't too much. But the first thing I want to do is play around and get bonded with the stamp set and figure out what they all look like. And oh, I love them. I just love them. I can see using these on so many different backgrounds. If you've got blotches and splotches in your stash, you can pull those out as well. Of course, I always love a new one to try, and I really love that little circle. So I think maybe that would be cute on the lower left. So I'm going to pull this apart so that I can do the stamping and I can go into the center of the circle without hitting the photos. So I'm just putting some scrap paper underneath, using a little Secret C to make that scribble circle, and then maybe add a little something something to the inside of that. I'm thinking the single splotch, maybe in second generation or by stamping off. So I'm going to take the Cajun Craze in full strength and stamp on scrap paper, and then second generation into that circle. There's a couple little like buttons, there's a little of some X's. So I think I'll do those in Pool Party and do one in first generation and one in second generation. And then I think we can move up to the upper right corner, but I need to sort of figure out where my icons are going to go so that I'm coming up underneath those icons. So if that easel is going to go off to the side, I'll do a Secret C splotch and then maybe add in just a tiny bit, like maybe those little X's in Pool Party, maybe one in first and second generation again. I'm thinking that I might want to take a blending brush and blend over the top of Currently Loving. There are a few other little icons that I think might work from the Punch Out Ephemera in Hobby Haven. Maybe those little tickets. There's some little green hearts that I might be able to pull in. I'm really going to be a minimalist with this one. A couple strategic clusters. I'm not going to go overboard, but there's plenty of space if you want to do more layering, more clustering, and add some more parts and pieces. So over on the right, I think I'm going to go with the large stripe and add that one. And then maybe the speckles will do a little bit of Cajun Craze. So the large stripe is Secret C. We'll do a little bit of a speckle in the Cajun Craze. Maybe add first and second generation blotch. And I think that's enough. I think maybe if we added one of the ephemera hearts there to get a little bit of a different texture, that might be cute. But let's get some of the icons in place first. Let's put the overlay back over. And let's see what we can do and add just a couple of those little bits and pieces of ephemera. So maybe the paint jars can be flush and the palette can be popped up. Maybe I can cut these green tickets in half and figure out where I might want to put those. I think I might end up just putting them under the larger easel and make it into one big cluster instead of getting so much going on with the eyes. I love the visual triangle on the left, and then I love that the splatters are on the lower left and upper right. So I don't really want to add another element to remove your eyes away from the path of the photos. So I'm thinking maybe the easel, but I don't really like it on the left. I think I'll maybe move it over onto the right and have that sort of make that a cohesive, so that your eye is coming around the corner of the easel and it hits the paintbrush. So now I'm going to take a blending brush and add a little Pool Party to Loving, a little Pool Party to Currently, just to soften that up a little bit. We do have the earthen tone dots or gems that come with this collection, or that coordinate with this collection. I think we could do a little bit more on the lower right. I love how we have Currently on the upper left, Loving brings you down a step, and then maybe these chevrons on the right page will bring you down one more step across the page. So I think we could add a 1/4-inch strip of the green across the chevrons, and then maybe do a little decorating with those earthen matte dots. And I'm getting happy. I think I'm getting happy. It's maybe a little more minimal than I normally do, but we have a lot going on with the 6 pattern papers, the cardstock colors, and then the blotches. So you can definitely do a little bit more than I'm doing, but I'm loving it just the way it is. I think I'll go with the pecan pie dots. I could use multicolors, but I think we have enough colors going on. So I'm going to go with the pecan pie dots and just put a few little clusters of 3 of those in the existing clusters. And let's check ourselves. How did we do? We added more circles, but we have a white frame around the photos. We've filled the holes in with the decorative circles. We have some strategically placed splatters, and I think I love it. I'm happy. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. I hope you will click more in the description and click on all the other ladies' videos. It's so fun to see 9 different takes of the same sketch and be inspired. And remember, if you've been following my channel, that this is video 5 of 7 of the Hobby Haven series. And when we get done with all 7 layouts in the Hobby Haven series, I'll be sharing the complete design space file for all 7 layouts to say thank you for 7,000 subscribers. If you enjoyed today's video, hit like, subscribe, and come back soon for more.